Hey everybody, this is TJR.
And this is Superfan.
And so it's our third Studio Ghibli film. And as we've said in previous videos, since we're planning on going to Japan and we're going to be going to visit the Ghibli Museum, the Studio Ghibli Museum, we want to try to see all the Studio Ghibli films directed by Hayao Miyazaki. I may have fumbled that a little bit. But we want to try to go see all the films. We've watched 2 so far, and we're at number 3 now. We're doing these in chronological order, and that's My Neighbor Totoro, which is probably, I would say, maybe the most popular, well-known as far as pop culture.
Yeah. Everybody, I think that...
People who haven't seen it at least recognize the iconography.
If you're even remotely interested in this genre,
yeah,
you would recognize Totoro.
Yeah.
You would recognize the cat bus.
Yeah, I think there's people who would be familiar with the iconography of the film even if they've never seen it. Kind of like there are plenty of people who know the iconography of Betty Boop, but have never seen a Betty Boop cartoon.
Yeah.
But they know the character. It's that kind of pop. It's reached that level of saturation in the pop culture.
And I can understand why.
Well, yeah. Well, first of all, just the character, the actual character of Totoro is a very, cute character, as long as he's not smiling or she's not smiling.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that in a moment.
Yeah.
We talked about how those smiles look to us, but in a moment. But first of all, let's just talk about. Let's first of all just kind of just talk a little bit about the basics of the film. I get the feeling this film is set in the 1940s.
Yeah.
Because of the radio that belongs to the family, and when you see just the lack of cars, when you just see the buses that people drive in, it just feels like it's the 1940s.
Yeah, it is post-war.
Okay, I was wondering if it was pre or post-war 1940s.
1950s Japan.
Okay, well in the early 50s you're still in the 40s at that point.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's good. It's set in post-war. That way you don't have that, at least the World War II looming over it. And we've basically got a very simple story about a father and his 2 daughters moving into a little country home. And they have a mother, but the mother is very sick in the hospital.
Yes.
And this kind of reminded me of my mom telling me about her childhood, because her mother had tuberculosis. And so she had to be, I think they called it an infirmary. She was in the hospital, but it was like an infirmary.
A sanitarium.
Sanitarium, yeah, because you're there on an extended stay.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what's going on with the mother. We don't know what she has exactly, though I kind of sometimes think maybe it's the same thing my mother had. I don't know. My mother's mother had, excuse me.
I would say no, because if it had been tuberculosis, the children wouldn't have been allowed to visit.
Okay.
And they were allowed to visit.
That's true, they were. Okay.
So.
Yeah, but we don't know what she has, but she's trying to get well.
Yeah, TB was highly contagious. My father actually had TB too.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And was in City of Hope for a year.
Okay. But my mother would tell me stories about how she didn't get to see her mother very much when she was a little girl because she was hospitalized and because she had TB. And anyway, so it did kind of remind me of that. But the thing about this film is that it's, especially when you compare it to the previous 2, Nausicaa and Castle in the Sky, where you've got all this action happening, so much going on, air battles, you've got all these characters, hordes of characters.
Yeah, those are war movies.
Yeah, this film...
This is a post-war movie.
A quiet little film, just a small cast of characters, mainly centered around the 2 little girls and their father, but mainly the 2 little girls. And not a lot happens in this film, and yet quite a bit happens, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah, it's very magical.
The kid, the youngest of the two girls, is the first to start to see a spirit known as Totoro, excuse me. And even before then, they talk about that the house might be haunted. Again, the youngest of the two girls sees these little black furry creatures.
Both saw them. They both saw the black.
You're right. When they first walked into they have to go into one of the rooms where it's pitch black. They turn on the light, and at first I thought it was cockroaches. There are all these little black things scurrying, away, and I just thought, it was loaded with cockroaches. But it turns out they're these little. They're called soot sprites.
Yes.
If I say it right, like soot, from a chimney, like chimney soot. Soot sprites. It's hard to say that. And yeah, at first I thought they were cockroaches, but they're just these little furry balls that have two eyeballs sometimes when they open them. And
like black dust bunnies.
Exactly, black dust bunnies. And the father just kind of jokes with the kids saying, yeah, this is, oh, that sounds fun. We've got a haunted house, and the kids, of course, when they go visit the mother, they tell the mother about the spirits, and she just, thinks it's cute. And it cheers her up. She just thinks it's the kids with their imaginations. Eventually, the older little girl starts to see the spirit too, starts to see Totoro and the other spirits that are because they're there in the countryside that live, in the woods and all that.
But it is something initially that happens when they're sleeping, but
Yes.
then later you start to question it because it starts happening when they're awake.
Yes, when they're awake. And, throughout the film, I kept thinking, is this really happening, these interactions with these spirits, or is this just how the girls cope with what they're going through, which is, what's the word I'm looking for, stress of dealing with the fact that their mother is very sick and that there is this fear that she may not get well.
Yeah.
And maybe this is just their way of coping with it. And I thought that through most of the film until we got to near the very end. And, again, spoilers, these films have been around for 40 some years now.
Yeah.
We figure if you're watching this video, you've seen these films. But yeah, spoilers though, I realized when the father finds the corn
on the windowsill
while he's visiting his wife in the hospital, and it says to mama, because
to mommy,
because one of the youngest girls saved this corn, hoping it would make her mother feel better. And when they see that there, and then when the mother says, I almost thought I saw them smiling at us from the tree, then you realize, okay, this is all really happening. None of this has been in their imagination. None of this is how they're coping. And yet, these interactions with these wood spirits, country spirits, countryside spirits, whatever you want to call them, does help them cope. It does relieve a lot of their stress. It gives them
a focus outside of
that, and it gives them something magical in their lives. And it does help them with that. And of course, when they're the most worried about their mother, that's when Totoro calls his cat bus. And the thing is, they don't go inside the hospital. They just go up in a tree where they can see mother talking to father. She's laughing. She's obviously she's not as bad as they thought they were. And they realize, okay, she's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And so they're relieved now. We can go now. And back in the magic cat bus. So let's talk about those grins. Yeah, it was early on. We were watching the first time Totoro has this big smile. You said that smile looks rather menacing.
Yeah, it would have been scary if his teeth had been sharp.
Yes, it would have been. I'm guessing it's just a cultural thing, because I felt the same way about the cat. We first see the cat bus, and he turns towards the children with his high beam lights coming out of his eyes, looking very much like the Cheshire Cat from Alice in Wonderland. And we'll talk about Alice in Wonderland in a second. But that grin, that giant grin, looked pretty damn menacing to me, or would have looked very menacing to me as a small child, I think.
Yeah.
Again, I think it's just a cultural thing.
I think it's a cultural thing because the girls were charmed by it.
Yes, the little girls, were never frightened. And that's the thing. The Totoro will respond sometimes by letting out a huge roar that blows, tons of air.
And they just giggle.
And they just giggle, it's not frightening to them. And I think it's part of, again, a cultural thing between what I guess children over here and what children over there would find scary. I thought those grins looked kind of homicidal looking, but and I would have probably thought that when I was a kid. But anyways, though, so do you want to talk about the Alice in Wonderland thing?
Yeah, I think that there's definitely a comparison. I haven't seen anybody else make it. Mm-hmm. But the way it was drawn, the characters,
yeah,
I felt a major Alice in Wonderland nod there.
Well, there is the fact that the cat's face looks incredibly like the Cheshire Cat from Alice in Wonderland, and incredibly like the Cheshire Cat from Disney's Alice in Wonderland, which Disney films were a big influence on Miyazaki.
I would say that it's more like the original
Cheshire Cat from the original
the original book.
The original illustrations. And I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I do see that there too. I see it there too. I kind of see both, in my opinion. I see a little bit of both. But also, you got to also remember that early on, when May first chases after the sort of like the little because there's like 3 Totoro-like characters. There's a little white one that's kind of transparent, and then there's like a mini version of, and then there's the big one. And the mini one is like just a smaller version of the big one, which is the primary character, Totoro. When she first chases after the little transparent one, and she goes inside of like a tree trunk, she falls down a hole and tumbles down.
Yeah, that felt very Allison to me.
Yeah, I thought about that immediately, that she's going down the rabbit hole, the way Alice did. And anyways, though, Superfan just made cookies.
Yes.
We're gonna let this cool though. I'll probably have this after. It smells really good though. And anyways, though, and that's Superfan's infamous chair that you all talk about in the comments.
Sorry, I try and keep it quiet.
Anyways, though, no, you've been doing great. And but yeah, there is a certain Alice in Wonderland quality in certain respects to it. And in a kind of a way, not a whole lot happens in Alice in Wonderland, even though quite a bit does. And in this film, getting back to that comparison, the kids just, the film is just, aside from these few moments into fantasy, the kids just do, everyday things. The older one goes to school, they do chores, the little one plays outdoors, makes up games. On the weekends, they walk through country roads with their dad, or on the bicycle through country roads. They just play around the countryside. Just
a normal family life.
Yeah, it just felt so much like childhood to me, and it reminded me of my childhood. Granted, we had TV growing up, but a lot of our childhood was, outdoors.
Yeah.
Just playing around our areas. We didn't have a countryside to play in, but we played wherever we could. I lived on a cul-de-sac street, and we would play baseball there. We would ride our bikes. There was an empty lot where there was this big empty lot. We would play there. We'd build dirt mounds and just whatever.
Kid stuff.
Yeah, just kid stuff. We're just making our own fun. And this film really felt like that. It really reminded me of that. It really kind of just brought that all of that back to me.
Yeah.
It captures it really well. And we should talk about how beautiful the animation is. I mean, it's been beautiful in all of them. There was a big leap between Nausicaa and Castle in the Sky. A big leap as far as how good the animation looked.
And there was another leap here, I think.
Well, this one was equally. They both this one and Castle in the Sky were equally beautiful. But I think here we got to enjoy it more because we weren't distracted by all the aerial battles.
Yeah.
That's in Castle in the Sky. We weren't quite as distracted by all of that. And not putting that other one down. It was a great film. This one is just great in a different way. I should add that we both have seen this film previously. I probably saw it some 20-some years ago, maybe.
I saw bits and pieces of it partly when you watched it.
Okay. But I remember watching it some 20-odd years ago or so. I had seen it reviewed on Siskel and Ebert and watching it on home video. And at that point, I don't think they had an English dub. I think I was watching it with subtitles. And this was probably maybe VHS, I guess. VHS. And I remember when it was over with, my thoughts on it were, well, is that it? I was one of those people who just didn't get it when I first saw it. I was one of those people who just kind of thought, well, I don't know if I want to say it was boring, but it was like I kept waiting for something bigger to happen and nothing did. And I was one of those people who just didn't get it. And I've been kind of anxious now to rewatch it ever since we started this whole idea of watching all the Ghibli films, because I thought maybe I'll feel differently about it. And I definitely did.
Yeah. So
because like I said, it really brought me back to childhood. And there is a meditative quality to this film that I can appreciate now more as I was an adult before, but more as an older adult than as a young adult. I can appreciate it a lot more. Of course, meditation has become a part of my life too. And I've learned to appreciate the slow build of just, taking your time to tell a story. And anyways, though, anything else you want to say about it?
No, it was a nice little movie. It was,
Very sweet film, too. Very sweet
nothing,
film.
I don't want to say earth-changing or life-changing, but, I mean, it's become such a huge touchstone.
I'm going to make a comparison. A few years back, I discovered what was at first called the Chilled Cow YouTube channel, which was famous for Lo-Fi Girl. Now it's just called the Lo-Fi Girl channel. And it is just this repeating animation of a young, girl in anime style, sitting at her desk, listening to music on headphones, working on homework, occasionally looking out the window. There's a cat that occasionally is, kind of sleeping in the background, that occasionally turns its head and looks up for a moment, goes back to sleep. But there's this music called lo-fi chill hip hop beats. And this type of music I have found is very good for when I need to just concentrate on a task that I'm not that interested in doing, like figuring out the bills or doing my taxes. It's also very good when I'm at work, in that it kind of keeps me kind of relaxed and calm, even when I have to deal with stressful situations. And it just has this very calming effect. This movie really just has, if you just stop waiting for something big to happen and you just accept it, it has this very calming effect, this movie. It's like when you were a kid and I could sit like on the curbside where our house was, and I could just stare at like a little ant crawling across the street and just watch it slowly as it moves across the ground. Then maybe it like picks up a little like twig or something and then starts to carry it back. And I could just sit there and watch it and not feel bored or anything as a little kid. I could just like, I'm just going to watch this insect do its thing, do what it does.
Yeah.
And
because you have the time at that age to slow down.
Yeah, you have the time at that age to slow down. And that's kind of what this movie does if you allow it. It lets you slow down and just look at the scenery, look at the insect, walk across the street. It lets you do that. And I think, yeah. And
Wait
I mean
for
that in the best
bus
possible
in
way.
the rain.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, though, so yeah, completely different from the last two. Utterly, totally the opposite of the last two. Yeah. And just as good, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's just a very sweet family movie.
And if you're an adult, hopefully it can help you re-experience childhood. If your whole childhood wasn't spent in front of a computer screen. Anyways, if you're part of that generation. Anyways, though, those are our thoughts. Please share yours. If you're watching this, I'm betting you've seen this movie already. And so share your thoughts on the film. Yes.
Grogu just told me Totoro is his cousin.
Oh, really? Yeah, everybody's your cousin, buddy. You can't, don't believe him. Hey, don't believe. Anyways, let us know your thoughts.
Don't call Grogu a liar.
He's just, no, I'm not calling him a liar. He just has an active imagination. He says he knows everybody. He says everybody's his cousin. You gotta see through his little, his little grift. Anyways, though.
He knows the Mandalorian.
That's true. He does. That's actually true. He's not making that part up. Anyways, though.
Well, if he can know the Mandalorian, the Totoro can be his cousin.
Well, we'll see. Oh, she's sucking up to you. Anyways, though, we're curious to know what you think. Let us know your thoughts. As always, if you like these videos, be sure to hit like, hit subscribe, hit the bell notification icon so you never miss a video. And a big thank you to the Patreon supporters. Patreon supporters do receive exclusive weekly videos not available on this channel. Mostly thank you for stopping by. We really appreciate it. And hopefully we'll see you in the next video. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.